Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, and thank you very much for stopping by once again. I had said in the last video that when I closed it up that I'd be filling in a few gaps from the newsletter in this video, and then I forgot to take that out of the, the description at the bottom when I pulled that out because I wanted to keep it very short. So some people were looking for the problem I was going to talk about, and there was nothing there. My apologies to you. I think the first 100 or so came in. Anyhow, here we go. There is a kind of visa out. I'm going to try to keep this as short as possible. It is. You don't need to remember the name. You will know it by a different style. It's called rentista retirado. It means somebody with a lot of money, basically. Rentista is a rentier. Well, whatever. It's a person with a considerable sum of money, independently wealthy. And they're retired and they're not really busy doing anything special like that. They're retired. And they can take several $100,000, put it into account. And if they can draw out initially, in 1987, 36 years ago, when this visa was a different Panama in a different world, it was to generate $750 in interest, which would go to the applicant, you, if you were the one doing it. Then they raised it to $850 because they wanted to increase the amount you had to put into the bank. And that money cannot be taken out for 5 years. You do and you lose everything. You lose your everything. You use your residency visa completely and any expenses you've had. So you leave it in there. It's meant to be left there. And that's what the bank uses for loan purposes and what have you to help grow the country. That's the purpose behind it. And that's true in a lot of countries. They have similar visas. And we have another visa or two that are like that. So this is nothing new. The problem with it is that to begin with, it's a lousy deal. You get 5 years of a temporary residency. And then if you choose, you can extend it for 5 years of temporary residency. And when that's over, it's over. So you've tied all that money up for 10 years, and you still don't have permanent residency. And that is simply not the way with the other visas that are available and that people basically pay for every time they come down. And nothing quite like that. That's pretty tricky. So why on earth would anybody want one of these visas when we've got something similar that, so the answer is one word: passport. Now, for some reason, I don't know, back in the day, I guess they decided maybe in the 90s, post-Noriega or something, I don't know, that they wanted to bring people down and so on and have them get involved. Well, actually, this is 1987. It was during the Noriega regime. They brought it down, and they made this deal for people to get visas. And it wasn't necessarily just for Americans. It was it could be for anybody. But the key point is that it is old. And it has been replaced effectively by other visas, if not officially. It's still on the books. I get the list of all the visas that are actually granted every month. And there's over 30 of them that get listed and down the low numbers and when single digits even sometimes. But then they have a tiny number of others, maybe buried in there. There's one. But the key here is very, very simple. This visa says that you will get a second passport. That is how it's pitched. And sometimes, God forbid, as the Panama Instant Passport. We went through this 15, 16, 17 years ago. I saw this. What? Wow, I didn't know about this. I need to know about this. People be interested in all that, maybe interested in all this. A second passport, Americans make no secret, some of them, of wanting a second passport. So here, let's give it to them. And what you get is a document of sorts. I guess it's a document. It's not, I don't know, it's official. Panama does present it. It will be called a travel passport at some of the legal sites. Basically what it boils down to, where are you going to go with a simple little semi passport looks a little bit like the Panamanian passport, that states right off the bat, this is not a passport. And if it was for me, they say, Robert Adams is a citizen of the United States of America. They may include my passport number there. It wouldn't surprise me. And he is a resident of Panama. Basically, it just says I'm a resident. It just means I can come from here. I live here. But I am not a Panamanian citizen, and this is not a passport. Now, I haven't seen one of these in hand, but everybody says the same thing, including the people who pitch it. They sort of slide it in there somewhere. And I hear people saying, well, maybe the guy at migration isn't going to look that carefully. Oh, give me a break. You think I'm going to get stuck in the middle of nowhere with a document that says this is not a passport that I call a passport, and I'm not going to have my American passport with me because I don't need it? And United Airlines, for example, is going to let me in on a flight to the U.S., and the U.S. migration is going to say, oh, welcome back, Mr. Adams. This is more than enough. You don't need your passport. I wouldn't count on that. And in return, the same thing. They typically like to see that you have a passport before you get on an international flight, and it has to meet their qualifications of what is a legitimate passport. Not somebody down here who decided to call this a passport. So what do you do about this? I don't like it. I didn't like it back then, and I was very thankful. One site that caused a big commotion about all of this and caused me a lot of headaches, finally put up a posting saying, we apologize. We've looked into this more carefully. It appears that this visa is not granted, if at all, very frequently, and it's probably not worthy of you even considering it. It's not really a passport. I said, oh, thank you. I mean, that's great. I mean, for one of these sites that are selling the whole idea of passports, second passports, and immigration to other countries and whatever. Good for you. It died out. Now it's coming back. People are really in need of getting you into their office. And if this is what gets you into their office, this is what they'll do. Now, I'm going to give you something to do if you face this sort of pitch. And a recommendation to you, because anybody can be wrong. Maybe they've got some secret information nobody else has, and Uncle Bob just hasn't noticed. But I would do this. Say to the lawyer, I said, fine, I'm interested in this visa. I want you to write me a letter on stationery, a formal letter describing in English, if that's your language, whatever it is, whatever language you choose. Don't pay to have it translated. They can get somebody to do that if it's in Spanish. Easy. But anyhow, just to state specifically that this is what you're getting, and this is can be used like a regular passport, can be used for travel. You don't need to take your regular passport with you. It's really a second passport for a different country that you're not a citizen of, and it works. You need to hear that. You need to, then they would attach to that letter a copy of the decree or whatever legal documentation there is in the government of Panama that decided to provide a second passport to people who were not citizens and only temporary residents here. And they would get this instant passport. It would, anyhow. They need to attach that to the letter so that you're very clear of the legal backing to the whole thing. That might lead to you being suggested maybe one of our other visas. But who knows? If they want to develop it, fine by me. If they do, then I'd say to, and I mean it sincerely, for God's sakes, put any people out of your minds. Get 6 or 7 or 8 or 10 of these people whom you got the visa for, who travel on this, and get them out in a video in front of people and let everybody know. Because if you get plenty of people coming in to talk to you. If you can prove it, you're probably doing it now by just mentioning it. Prove it. Impress us, and I will be happy to watch the video, talk to the people in the video, whatever, and hear about the whole story, and share all the information from the government that you share with my lawyer too, so we can be brought up to date and all that. Okay, that's how you deal with it, as far as I'm concerned. Otherwise, if I were you, I would just don't let it suck you in, and it doesn't speak well. It doesn't speak well when people use these techniques. It's like putting up a house in Quinta 24, when a commercial real estate site that no longer is on the market, that was sold, and put it up, and have it up at a very good price, and all sorts of beautiful pictures and stuff like that. And then when somebody walks into your office, they say, "I want to talk to you about a property I saw on your, that you're showing," and you go on. I did this on one occasion, and we got there at the address that I was supposed to go. I was very specific of where I wanted to see. I read the ad, and I got out of that address, and the woman who was coming, she wasn't there at the moment. I waited and I waited, and finally, I saw down the street a woman get out of a car and close the door and look around. I thought, I wonder if that could be her, because I'm in front of the address. What's she doing down there? So anyhow, I walked down and I said, "Hi." And she said, "Oh, are you Mr. Adams?" I said, "Yes, I am." I said, "Why are you here? I thought you were going to show me this other." "What other apartment?" "Well, I explained to you on the phone, and here it is." And she said, "Oh, we just rented that. I should have had it taken down. But I've got a lot of other places to show you. In fact, I have one right on this block. Let's go take a look at that one." And I would rent a horse and buggy for this person. At that stage, I was already, ugh. And then we went up, and I'd explained very carefully what I wanted, and she showed me this place that was nothing remotely like I wanted. Guys, you gotta watch out. These people need to sell you certain properties. They need to meet certain levels of sales. This is business. It shouldn't come as a big surprise to you. It's not illegal. It's just the way it is. You've got to be careful with it. So that's the same thing here. Now, as far as another detail here, and this will be almost the end of it, is regarding Americans in particular. Bless their hearts. Because of the long relationship with Panama, they feel that they must be, a very large portion of the retiree music community or the expatriate community down here. And it's just automatic. That's what they expect to find lots of Americans around. And there are in certain locations, quite a few. Basically out in the west and the Boquete area. Otherwise, in terms of residence permits, I've been, last year they were 5%, 5.2% to be exact, and Canadians made it to 0.5%. So between the two of them, they almost made it to 6%. This is a nation that is associated with dozens of countries. We have people coming from everywhere. Americans have been traditionally, people come down, a lot of them came in the early part of the century. Now they're still coming, but many others are too. Our reputation is growing as a good place to be, a stable society, a secure society, a society where you can make money and hold on to it, and the government's not going to, suddenly take it away and hand you some worthless currency in place of it, and so on. This is done, plus a lot of people live here now whose countries had very few of their countrymen living here when I first arrived. Venezuela is one of those. And when they first came, thought this was like a country town, with cows in the streets or something like that, and have discovered that we're really quite a progressive and modern city, and we have all these amenities that they want, and then we've got them. Not instantly, but we've certainly been building them on, and there's nobody complaining. I think we compare pretty well with Caracas at the moment, and I think we will for a while. But the key point is that this is now knowledge. There are other things that are now known about working in Panama, how to do this for Latin Americans, and that's what I think is happening in Argentina and so forth. And I do think that there could be growth there, or who knows what all. But there's a lot of trouble out in Latin America generally, and we really stand alone, and we're pretty different in this whole thing. And I'm thankful for that, and you should be too. Then, so that's it. Maybe Europeans, maybe South Americans. I don't expect North Americans to do it because they're already here in numerous numbers. They already come down regularly anyhow. I don't know, maybe. But in any event, folks, it doesn't happen in 60 days. Don't even think about coming down to flip a property. I mean, it's just the wrong way to deal with it. You buy it, you own it for a while. And in this particular market, it could be quite a while. So I wouldn't rush unless you're looking for the best price and you're coming to live here. Yeah, by all means, now is a good time. You don't want to hang out until the prices get back to normal again. You want to pay another 20, 30% just because, well, really? Oh, I can show you a house. No. You see what I mean? Yeah, I mean, it makes sense in some instances to come down when you can to take advantage of the lowest possible prices. And there are some advantages to not doing that if it's not appropriate for you to do it and you're not able to come down and take care of the property and so on and look after it yourself. It's usually, you need some physical presence here most of the time, if not all the time, to feel, until you know your way around. And you know who you can trust, and you know who can do property management, that sort of thing. There's some people who do it very well, others who don't. And you're not going to walk in knowing. So keep that in mind too. All these are factors, they're all legitimate, but I'm not going to tell you when this market's going to explode or whether it's going to or not. I do say this, it's probably the healthiest market in the Western Hemisphere right at the present moment. It is from the perspective of the buyer. So in any event, that's pretty much changed these things I wanted to see if I got anything else here. No, okay. Oh, yes, one thing. The U.S. dollar. Yes, it's finally weakening. I mean, it's been so super strong here for so long, years. And it's got a long ways to go before it gets back to its mid-level. But at least it's coming down. And that's very important to us because if it's $250,000 now, it's $250,000 if it goes down because we do everything in dollars and people from the U.S. do everything in dollars. So they are not impacted by this. But people from Europe, for example, or South America, or anywhere where their currency have a separate currency, they now can spend less of their own money to get the dollars they need to buy here because they have to buy in dollars. And the Canadians know from the loonie, sometimes it's up and sometimes it's down. It can have quite an impact on how much you have to actually pay. Oh, loonies are the Canadian currency. I guess it has a picture of a loon on one side of the coin. The Canadian dollar, actually. So that is going to be helpful, I hope, to sales, and that should be able to perk things up a little bit more, too. So that's what I wanted to add on. I will be back again with more. I've got, guess what? The food. The food video, the famous food video that no one's ever seen. And when I suck up the patience to beat my head against the wall and get this thing done, I'll do it. And until then, though, I have a wonderful weekend if you have one ahead of you. And I will be looking forward to talking to you again.